discussing about COPRA from last week. Today we are going to see three fundamental aspects which are almost new provisions or new concepts brought in the new COPRA 2019. Product liability, which was never defined earlier, leave alone COPRA, even in the Indian law. It was not specifically defined, though there were several references drawn with regard to protection offered to consumers under various civil laws like your Indian Contract Act 1872 or your Sale of Goods Act or your Drugs and Cosmetics Act or Prevention of Food and Adulteration Act 1954 or your Bureau of Indian Standards Act 2016. In all these specific legislations, there was specific reference. However, COPRA provides specific protection to consumers when it comes to product liability, and there was always an ambiguity in the supply chain when it comes to manufacturer or seller, where exactly the specific individual or entity should be targeted by the aggrieved consumer when it comes to this particular grievance of consumer. Where will he approach when there is a product liability defect? There, the rescue was determined and decided by virtue of COPRA 2019. Even in 1986, you never had this provision, and hence this product liability term assumes greater significance. Specific definition is made under section 2 to avoid ambiguity, and also there are 4 specific sections from 84 to 87 where the liability of product manufacturer, product seller of any product or service along with exception for such product liability is specifically provided. We are going to see that, and we will conclude with one of the latest Apex Court judgments, which is as latest as 23rd July 2020, where it was determined by Apex Court after hearing this particular case in various consumer forums in your district, state, and your national forum, redressal forum. So with this introduction, let's get into today's provisions, friends. My sincere thanks to Aishwarya for this detailed presentation. This is the outline. We will first see a quick comparison between COPRA 86 and 2019. Only when we know the previous legislation, we will be able to appreciate why there is a difference. So let's understand the rationale behind this particular instrumentalization. Then few significant definitions and the meaning of certain relevant terms which we will apply in today's webinar. Of course, the COPRA, as you are aware, which was notified on 20th July 2020, is also appended with various rules. So it is pretty detailed. So we will try to cover as much as possible in our 8th corporate law webinar series to provide you not only the essence of these relevant terms, but also to make it interesting and informative by providing various case laws. Of course, the case laws will draw reference only to your old act since the new act is pretty young. We will see Rohit Reddy case for e-commerce entities. We will first see the definition of e-commerce, which is again a new concept brought in thanks to digitalization. We never envisaged such a situation in 1986, and hence to provide protection to customers under this digital scenario, under the new era, we have this e-commerce defined, and this Amazon Seller Service Private Limited is more relevant to this particular concept. And then we will see the concept of unfair trade practice and the significant difference which is brought in the new act. Of course, there was a reference in the previous act also for UTP, but we will see the specific emphasis made in the new act, the product liability, which we just referred to, together with relevant case laws for unfair trade practices and a recent case law where the judgment is held by Apex Court, which we just discussed. This is the beginning of new era. Of course, it carries the rich legacy of COPRA 1986 because aggrieved consumer can approach, depending on the jurisdiction, to any of the 3 forums, be it district or state or national. Of course, it overcomes all the challenges which the old act had, but because of this new era and the rapid growing sophisticated environment which we have, and hence several amendments have been brought in, including insertion in the e-commerce where you have online sales, direct sales, MLM sales also into consideration. This is a comparison at a glance, just a bird's eye view, friends. In COPRA, old Act, you never had a separate regulator, but CCPA is the central regulator currently, where if you read the provisions, 24 July, the CCPA rules together with this particular authority was notified. Not only that, if you read the Press Information Bureau guidelines on 29 July 2020, the office was established under CCPA. And if you read the Press Information Bureau guideline, there they clearly say this is more to enforce and protect the interest of consumers. That's why you have the central regulator in place. Consumer court. Previously, you had this particular limitation that the complaint could be filed only where the seller's office was located, but you now can file it anywhere. Either of the parties, be it your defendant or respondent, reside or they have their place of business. Mediation, yet another blessing in the new act. You never had such provision in the old act. Product liability, you're going to see in detail thanks to COPRA 2019, which not only has provided protection to consumer in the big supply chain to identify the specific individual or entity where they could target, and also, friends, it assumes greater significance because in the product manufacturer definition, which we are going to see today, even if the product manufacturer was not negligent or he did not have any fraudulent approach, if even then if he is going to give express warranty, he is liable. So it assumes greater significance in the light of this particular wide coverage to protect the interest of consumer. Of course, here it clearly says that the protection is available only when you are a consumer. So the question comes as to what will happen if I have a product liability but I am not a consumer. Then you have to go to various other civil laws where this particular remedy is available, be it your Sale of Goods Act or Indian Contract Act or your Drugs and Cosmetics Act, depending on the sector and depending on the circumstances under which the case arises. E-commerce, again, providing provision for e-commerce direct sales, multi-level marketing sales, video conferencing. Now, e-submission is also allowed. Previously, you had a lot of formalities. Now, it is dispensed with the digital advancement, and consumer can seek hearing through VC mode as well. Definitions. We are going to see only those definitions which have relevance in today's webinar series, friends. We are not going to cover the entire definition section. Complainant. Complainant means a consumer, no doubt. He has the first and prerogative right to approach the court. Any voluntary consumer association. Previous law also you had all these provisions. The only addition, if you want me to make a quick comparison, will be one, in the case of consumer being a minor, even a guardian can approach is an addition, and the central authority is an addition. All others remain the same. Of course, in the previous act, there was a reference to voluntary consumer association registered under Companies Act now or any other law. Now they clearly provide a general route for you to approach as a complainant. Any other law for the time being enforced. Of course, if there are various consumers, then one particular consumer can approach on behalf of several others on behalf of that association which they have formed. Of course, they should be like-minded in approaching this particular case. Complaint. Friends, for the benefit of understanding the significant difference, those highlights in bold will be the additions. Otherwise, it remains the same. Any allegation in writing made by a complainant for obtaining relief under this act. So, it should be to seek relief or remedy. Unfair trade practice or RTP was already there. They have widened the scope by including unfair contract also, which means if there is any mutual agreement between the parties, even then the complaint could certainly be made. The goods brought because of defect. So defect in goods or deficiency in service is the key thumb rule which we already applied. And always we apply this particular rule in the case of COPRA. A trader or service provider who is charging in excess vis-a-vis the price which is fixed by law. If your Act or your Bureau of Indian Standards Act clearly defines the earmarks this particular price and you are going to override that particular provision, then you will certainly come under this particular ambit. And if the display on the goods, you are putting MRP as 50 but you are charging beyond that, then you will come under the scope. And displayed on the price list exhibited, you have in the hotel the price tag. If they are going to charge you over and above what is specified there for the mini tiffin or the lunch that you are being provided, then you will certainly come under this route. Agreed between the parties, which is where you have the unfair trade contract, where it is beyond what was agreed between the parties. And something which is hazardous to life and safety. And product liability, of course, is the addition now under complaint definition, where claim for product liability action arises against three categories: manufacturer, seller, service provider. Services which are hazardous to life and safety, when there is a threat because of the goods. The first one is goods, the second one is services. Of course, the criterion remains the same, which is causing hazard to the life and safety of the consumer. In all these cases, a complaint can be raised. So we discussed who is a complainant and what is the complaint. And then comes defect. Defect, the provisions are almost the same, but for the definition including product, since product liability, manufacturer, all are defined adequately in the new act, product is also included, and defective also shall take cognizance of this particular defect definition. So any fault, imperfection or shortcoming, these are the three conditions ultimately while you make an application for defect. And you find these three conditions either in the quality, quantity, potency, purity or standard on all these 5 parameters, which is required under the law or by virtue of an agreement between the parties, or when it is proclaimed by the trader that these products or goods have those, but they don't possess those parameters or the conditions, then certainly you can approach as a complainant. Then comes deficiency in service. Again, you have those three conditions: fault, imperfection, shortcoming. The parameters will be quality, but since it is service, quantity is not there. You will have nature and manner of performance. Again, the reference will be which is required to be maintained under the law or by virtue of the statute in relation to that particular service. The bold highlights or additions, where there is negligence, omission or commission which causes injury to the consumer, so which attributes to negligence, then the deficiency can be proved and certainly the complainant can approach the court. And deliberate withholding of information, this makes it a wider definition, friends. So which is imperative for us to appreciate, where you are withholding some information which is not provided to the consumer. You are acting against the caveat emptor rule, let the buyer beware, and hence this will certainly attribute to deficiency in service. Here comes the two important new definitions: e-commerce. So buying or selling of goods. So I am doing an online purchase, or I am taking some service, availing some service through online route, then certainly the e-commerce platform is widened to include the consumer, even if he is an agreed party by virtue of taking that digital route, he can certainly seek remedy under this particular new act. ESP is a person who provides technology or processes to enable a product seller to engage in advertising or selling goods or services to a consumer, and it includes online marketplace or online auction sales. With reference to the e-commerce, we are going to see one interesting case law. Rohit Reddy Chinta, this is Amazon Seller Service Private Limited. Here complainant was Rohit. OP, the opposite party was Amazon, the online vendor who was involved in this particular case. Case number is cited for your reference to see the detailed quoting. Complainant placed an order for Lakshmi gold coin worth 2,85,000. He received an order from Amazon Transportation Services Courier. To his surprise, the complainant found that the information was withheld. We just discussed that deficiency in service includes withholding information. Your BIS certification, your purity, metal, whatever was showcased in their advertisement through the online channel was, to his surprise, not appearing in the courier which he had received, and thus he raised a return request. And on the same day, the opposite party apologized for sending the wrong product and accepted the complainant's return request. So if you see, not only the information was withheld, but it was appearing different from what was shown on the website, and hence he requested for refund of his particular amount, and the opposite party did acknowledge this, and he had asked him to return that particular product and get the money back. On 4th October, he asked the complainant to return the product. On 20th October, complainant received information that he was in receipt of wrong product and refund would be processed. So he accepted his deficiency in service, and he said that it will be processed within 5 working days. But he failed to refund it till 24th December. Despite escalations, even after sending repeated mails till December 15, the refund promise was not honored by this particular opposite party. And hence the complaint notice was sent to the opposite party for appearing before the forum. The complainant certainly was having his own contentions. He said that the averments made in this complaint were vague, and he said that the opposite party merely provided his online channel for placing the order through website. However, it was not purchased through him was the contention placed, and he said that the product was purchased through a third party luxury online retail private limited, and hence there was no transaction between the parties, that is this Amazon and the complainant, opposite party and the complainant. It was only online marketplace which was provided by them, was the contention held by the opposite party. And hence he said that there was no relationship and he was a stranger to the contract and he was not falling under the definition of consumer, the complainant, and hence opposite party merely provided the online market route where the third party sellers, this online retail India private limited, opted this particular channel for listing their products on display and for sale. The opposite party thus was neither necessary nor a proper party in this complaint, was the contention made. Complainant, by virtue of this website, agreed to be bound by the terms, because when we go to any website, we agree first to all the terms and say accept, only then it allows us. So that was another substantiating fact which he had placed and denied all the allegations of the complainant, and both the parties had their own contentions to substantiate backed by an affidavit. The forum held that they were, the Amazon were online service providers with great reputation, and it was their duty to establish that the consumers were provided the proper product which was displayed in the online channel, and for the value for money they should be certainly provided the product which they have seen in the place and not withhold any information. The business activities of opposite party also well comes within the definition of COPRA, but because of taking consideration acting as purchaser and the consumer, seller and purchaser, those two parties making it a transaction under COPRA, and based on this particular confirmation they also acknowledged that the opposite party will certainly refund the money within 5 days, and but they did not honor that particular request despite giving a return email confirmation. Hence the dispute forum held that to refund this particular amount of 285, 284, which was paid by this particular complainant, together with an interest at the rate of 9% and 2000 towards the cost of proceedings. This is towards the e-commerce entity. And now we are going to see the second and third segment for the day, which are UTP and product liability. UTP, again, This is already defined with the highlights being the insertions in the new act. So if there is any false statement, misleading representation or facts, even then it becomes a UTP, and permitting the publication by way of an advertisement and also which is unintended for sale or supply could also lead to UTP or the additions in the trade practice. Product means any article, good, substance or raw material which may be in any mode, be it your gaseous, solid or liquid state, possessing such intrinsic value either as wholly assembled or as a component part, and it is produced for introduction to the consumer for trade or commerce. However, this excludes human tissues, blood products and organs. Product liability means we already discussed, but the definitions clearly says that it is the responsibility of these three target recipients: product manufacturer, seller or product service holder, in the nature of any product or service to compensate for any harm which is caused to the consumer. The product liability action for which the complaint could be raised before any of the forums depending on the pecuniary jurisdiction. Chapter 6 provides provision for product liability, and we saw that the scope is for any harm which is caused to the consumer. Hence, it is important for you to be a consumer for this particular injury or harm caused by any product manufacturer or product service provider or seller, with some exceptions attached to it. Manufacturer is the person who makes or assembles any product. Service provider who provides any service in respect of such product. Seller in the course of business sells, distributes, leases, installs or is involved in placing such product for any commercial purpose. So these are the three target recipients under 84, 85, 86. 87 talks about your exceptions. Any product defect or defective in design, so manufacturing defect or design defect, or if it has any deviation from the specs, specifications, or it does not conform to warranty. Here is where we discuss that even if it is with negligence, he has provided that warranty, even then he is held liable. If the product fails to contain any adequate instructions to prevent any harm, he shall be liable even if he is says, even if he proves that he was negligent or fraudulent. He was not fraudulent. He was not exercising willful fraud for making this particular express warranty. 85 talks about any service provided which is like your deficiency in service definition, fault, imperfect or deficient or inadequate in quality, nature, manner of performance, or it has an act of omission, commission, negligence or withholding of information as discussed in your deficiency of service. And if the service provider did not issue any adequate instructions or warnings to prevent any harm which is caused to the consumer, or it did not conform to any express warranty or the terms and conditions of the contract. And the liability of product seller as enshrined in 86 will be, he will be held liable if it causes harm to the consumer and it exercises substantial control over the design, testing, manufacturing of a product, alters or modifies the product, makes express warranty of the product. So here is when the seller will be held liable because he is altering the product. He is tampering with the product than what was provided by the product manufacturer. Otherwise, the consumer can directly go under 84. This gives clear provision under which bucket the consumer can approach without leaving any ambiguity in the supply chain. And if the product has been sold by him and the identity of the manufacturer is not known, or if he failed to exercise reasonable care and prudence in the product which he is selling. Of course, there is an exception for a product seller as provided in your 87 subsection 1, which says that product liability action cannot be brought at the time of harm the product was misused, altered or modified, in which case he cannot be held liable. There are few more exceptions to the product liability action. Product manufacturer shall not be held liable if the product was purchased by employer at the workplace, or product was sold as a component to be used in some other product. So this is more a byproduct, or it was one which was legally meant to be used under the supervision of an expert, and necessary disclaimers were provided while handing over that particular product, but cautious approach was not exercised, or the complainant was under the influence of alcohol while using that particular product, then the product manufacturer cannot come for rescue. He shall not be liable for failure to instruct or warn about a danger which the consumer should have certainly taken necessary prudence and sufficient care and diligence, in which case the product manufacturer shall not be held liable. Surender Kumar Lamba versus Eureka Forbes Limited, where the product liability comes into picture. Here, the complainant had a water purifier manufactured and sold by Eureka Forbes, being the opposite party. He purchased by paying a sum of 12,500. Of course, he was paying AMC of 4,000 every year for this particular RO. Suddenly, this particular complainant suffered knee pain due to the low TDS level, and subsequently he spent 40,000 for this particular medical treatment. He requested this opposite party to check the level of this particular RO, but his request was left with no answer. In 2018, during the campaign, OP visited all other parties, including this particular complainant, and they noticed that the TDS level was less than 15. They persuaded the complainant to install another water purifier, and they confirmed that that will have necessary minerals and nutrients for good health. Despite request, the complainant had not received any response from the opposite party, due to which the complainant got a new water purifier installed at a cost of 13,290, over and above what he had already paid as AMC for this particular opposite party. Complainant alleged negligence on the part of opposite party, due to which he not only lost his good health, but also he suffered mental agony, and hence a complaint was filed. The contentions placed by opposite party were that he denied first that the output had lower level of TDS, and he also submitted the facts that he had tested this particular complainant's or water and said that the TDS level was shown at 367 during 2018, and he also proved that there was no documentary evidence which proved that this particular low TDS attributed to the loss of plasma, and opposite party thus argued that there was no liability which should be accounted for his particular negligence for this particular imaginary damage which this particular complainant had claimed. AMC only specified that this particular Eureka is bound to provide the customers with regard to machine, and which they have already provided to the complainant, and hence they confirmed that there was no deficiency in service. Forum did analyze that the TDS level for all these ROs which were installed should be between 500 mg to 2000 mg per liter. In the report dated 17th April 2018, which was affirmed by this particular opposite party, the level was 51, and hence it was proved that it was lower than the standard requirements. Also, they quoted the WHO standards regarding the nutrients in water and proved that the WHO standards were also not complied with by the opposite party, and hence the forum held that there was no direct evidence on the file for this particular lack of TDS, and it cannot be thus ruled that this particular medical problem could be related to this particular nutrients and minerals which should be provided in the particular RO which is installed, and hence the forum said that this particular opposite party did indulge in unfair trade practice and allowed an order for refunding 13,290 towards the cost of this RO plant together with the AMC which was already paid, along with mental agony fee of 5,000, litigation cost of 5,000, and they also requested this particular opposite party to deposit an amount of 40,000 to Haryana State Council for Child Welfare within 1 month, failing which to carry an interest at 9% per annum, since it also caused concern on the health. The final case law is the recent judgment which was passed after several forums. There was final appeal which was made to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court held regarding the deficiency in service, and here there is a reference also drawn to the Supreme Court landmark judgment in the case of Indian Medical Council versus VP Shanta, which we all have studied in our exams as students, where it was held that when a medical service is provided free of cost, it shall be provided uniformly across the board, and if it is going to be provided only to few patients and not to the entire target audience, then they cannot claim shelter under 214. This is what was held by Apex Court in Safdarjung Hospital case. Here, a brief note on this particular case is spouse of this particular complainant, Srivatsa, was pregnant and she was admitted to Sarvodaya Hospital in medical emergency. She delivered a baby, but the baby was delivered prematurely. The complainant and the spouse were referred to Safdarganj Hospital because of this premature born for admission for emergency medical care in a nursery ICU. Child died in the last week of April 2004 after this particular reference was made from this Sarvodaya Hospital in the absence of this particular nursery ICU to take care of this premature baby to Safdarjung Hospital. So the first hospital, Sarvodaya Hospital, claimed that it had represented that the hospital was fully equipped, but the grievance was they were not fully equipped, and hence this particular patient was referred to this particular next hospital, and the baby was admitted to a general ward and thereafter to general ICU, but was not placed in nursery ICU. Hence, the complaint was presented before district forum seeking damages from both the hospitals. In the district forum, it was held that Sarvodaya Hospital was an independent nursery, and hence there was no misrepresentation of fact, because it clearly provided the facts in place to the patient and then referred the matter to this particular Safdarjung Hospital, and hence they claimed that there was no deficiency in service. And this particular case, it was held by district forum to be not maintainable against Safdarjung Hospital, because they said that they were providing services free of cost, and hence they wanted to take shelter under 210, which says that service includes all kinds of service but does not include service which is rendered free of cost or at concessional rate, and hence they tried to take shelter, and district forum also provided similar provision for the order. State Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission in its judgment into 2013 ordered similarly for the hospital to pay, but they again held that the next hospital, Safdarjung Hospital, cannot be held liable because they were not amenable to jurisdiction under the consumer forum, since they are outside the particular ambit, and hence they referred the judgment, landmark judgment of Indian Medical Council. Of course, they held that this particular hospital, Sarvodaya Hospital, was having medical negligence, and hence they asked them to pay 2 lakhs as compensation and cost quantifiable at 20,000 attributable to medical negligence to the patient. Revision petition was filed before National Consumer Redressal Commission, and here National Commission came to a conclusion that Sarvodaya Hospital was not guilty of medical negligence. The finding was that spouse was admitted in a precarious condition and referred the patient to a specialized facility after taking the necessary consent from the complainant. So they obtained necessary signature from them to refer the matter to the next hospital. And hence, National Commission in this case held that the second hospital, Safdarjung Hospital, is liable to pay a compensation of 2 lakhs because the first hospital took timely decision and they were not guilty of medical negligence and rightfully referred the matter to the next hospital, and hence the second hospital should be liable for medical negligence. The appeal was filed by Union of India through the secretary in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and Safdarjung Hospital, challenging this particular order of NCDRC. Analysis by the court while this particular appeal was made to Supreme Court. The Apex Court held that some of the important facilities available in the hospital were not provided to the patient at the right time. Regarding the claim that no charge for services rendered and hence they can take shelter under 210 cannot be held when free of charge services are not provided across all target audience. So only for few patients you are providing free of service at the cost of other patients who are providing necessary amount to the particular hospital, in which case 210 exemption is not available, and hence they quoted this particular landmark judgment of Indian Medical Association versus VP Shanta and held that the instant appeal was thus not tenable in the eyes of law. However, this particular decision of Supreme Court or the National Commission should not be regarded as a precedent was again a caveat put by Supreme Court. The court thus dismissed the appeal made by the Safdarjung Hospital to take shelter under this particular exemption from the deficiency of service, claiming that they are providing free of charge, and made them to make this particular compensation of 2 lakhs attributable to medical negligence in compliance to the order of this particular National Commission within a period of 2 months. So the only difference between the National Commission judgment and Apex Court judgment is the extension of additional timeline of 2 months provided from the date of receipt of the certified copy of this order, which is as latest as 23rd July 2020. Friends, with this we are concluding the second series of COPRA. If you have any doubts, I'll be glad to take. Otherwise, we can conclude the session. However, we will be continuing the same COPRA in our next session as well, friends. We have a lot of rules also. So, we will be seeing all those necessary rules which are also notified in July 2020, where you have product liability, the e-commerce rules, the general rules, mediation rules. So, the mediation is again a new provision. So, we can discuss in detail about all the new provisions, the rules read with regulations. With this, we are concluding today's session. Thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe.